Welcome to the I Didn't Know What the Fuck I Was Doing podcast.
We're your hosts, Teresa
And David.
This is the podcast with two ADHD entrepreneurs
who've made a lot of mistakes.
Each week, we discuss ways to navigate business, relationships, and health.
We also interview excellent guests who share their own personal IDKWTF stories.
Listen today so you can hear some relatable content
as we normalize uncertainty and obstacles.
Because it's important to admit that no one really knows
what the fuck they're doing. And we are back. So this is part 2 of our wonderful interview here on the IDKWTF podcast. I'm David B.
And I'm Teresa Merrick. And we're here with Stephen Cowan. We have been talking about microgreens. Hi, Stephen.
Hey.
I dubbed him. He is the king of microgreens because I
said
so.
I should trademark that.
You should. You should. And I will continue to tell everybody you're the king of microgreens. Yes. So part 1 was awesome. If you haven't heard it, go back and listen because we really dive into what microgreens are all about. We talk a lot about the nutritional value of plants and why you should care. Really, you should. Because the apple that you go to the grocery store and buy doesn't have the same amount of nutrients that you think it does. And we got into that. So please check it out if you haven't. And now we want to talk a little more with Stephen about more of the business side, but we're still going to have plenty goodness in here. So I'm excited. David, I think you have some questions just burning.
Yeah. So one of my big questions was, so you started growing the greens, you're just kind of in your home, and then you went to Dillon, Colorado. What was like, how did you make that choice? Or like, what was the thought process behind that move?
There was a couple of things I was thinking. One, I needed to go out into nature because I was giving birth basically to this business. And I needed to just be in kind of a space that felt clean to me where I didn't have all these distractions or just like I could be out in nature, easy access nature, walk out the back door, bike, ski, whatever it is. And that ended up being the perfect environment for this. And high-end restaurants are the biggest consumers of microgreens. They basically exist mainly at 5-star restaurants as a garnish, like a beautiful piece of art on top of the dish. So that's who's getting it. And they're all importing it, mostly flying it in from California. And these 1 to 2 week old vegetables are very fragile. If you've ever bought basil at the grocery store before, that's 4 or 5 weeks old, and that already looks beat up. This is much younger than that, much more fragile than that. So it's very hard to transport fresh microgreens. And that's what then inspired the thought of let's start drying these and let's retain as many of these nutrients as possible while extending the shelf life as long as possible. And I believe we've done that through our freeze drying.
Just a fun fact. Do you guys know, and I think it was through most of the 90s, who the number 1 purchaser of kale was?
No.
Costco.
Bunny Farms.
What did you say, Steven?
Costco.
It was Pizza Hut.
What?
Oh.
Because they would use
for their salad bar?
It was just, it wasn't to be eaten. It was to line the salad bar. And it was the garnish in the middle because we would all go to Pizza Hut. And so it was as a decoration. And so it's interesting when you say that high-end restaurants are like the number 1 purchaser of microgreens. And they're using it more as a garnish, not as like a staple.
Pizza Hut.
I know, right? It's
random. It's random. It makes sense. And it doesn't make sense.
It doesn't make sense. But it wasn't like seen as something like
valuable to
valuable then. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so then we're like, oh, there's a lot of nutrition in here. And so I think you're kind of on that, you're turning the conversation into there's this product that a lot of people see as a garnish, but it's actually really, really good for you. Mm-hmm. And I think that's really cool.
Thank you. Yeah, we just don't know. People just don't know. I didn't know. I'd never even heard of microgreens before.
Yeah.
Totally. Until I met you, Stephen, I was like, what is that even? Well, and so that begs the question, who's your biggest competition since there aren't a ton of other microgreens companies out there yet?
Yeah, there aren't. There's fresh microgreens. There's a lot of fresh microgreens companies out there, and most of them are small, like hyper local, servicing about a 20-mile radius. So go support your local microgreens farmer, go to your farmer's market. That's where you're going to find them. Talk to them about it, sample it. There's so many different types and that have a wide variety of flavors and colors. And there's a whole world there that you might find yourself interested in. and even get inspired to try growing them yourself. And I would say sprouts is probably the biggest competitor because people still call my microgreens sprouts. And sprouts, again, are just the first phase of the plant's life, 2 to 4 days old, microgreens 10 to 14. The microgreen from our own internal lab testing is about 5 to 10 times more potent than the sprout. It goes through photosynthesis, there's phytonutrients, there's chlorophyll, there's more good stuff in the microgreen than the sprout, and a lot less risk to different types of bacteria like E. coli, salmonella. You might have seen that in the news over the past couple of years about sprouts. I'd say the other big competitor would be education. People just don't know sprouts exist. If you go to Amazon right now and you type in the word microgreens, there's not going to be in the top, whatever they should give you, 10, 20 options. There's not, and like that drop down autofill window, there's not going to be a microgreens food or a microgreens tea or dried microgreens. It's going to be microgreens seeds and microgreens books and microgreens growing medium. People don't even know that a product like this even exists. I'm the first shelf stable microgreens product in the US and the only shelf stable microgreens product on Amazon.com right now. So it's really education. So thanks for helping me bring that awareness.
Absolutely.
Heck yeah.
Yeah. So like how are people receiving the information that you're bringing? And like, what else are you doing to share?
Yeah, for sharing, social media is a hit and miss when we do giveaways. That's really helpful. And being in Boulder, we have an abundance of natural products, startups like ourselves. So we'll do giveaways with them. That's what social media looks like. I haven't had a lot of success with paid media anywhere except through Amazon. Amazon does well. That's where most of the ad spend goes. But it's really trial at the farmers markets. We are expanding through farmers markets. People get to see living trays of microgreens. And they're like, oh, okay, I didn't know that's what broccoli looked like at 14 days old. Like, oh, I get it. Then you dry it. And then they get to try the tea or they get to try the broccoli booster or whatever. Then they're like, oh, this actually tastes really good. Oh, this is really high quality. So it's driving trial at farmers markets, capturing emails there, getting them through a drip campaign, and then people repurchase. And ultimately, our goal is to give people a really good deal to where they want to become a subscriber to our product. So we offer free shipping, we offer discount, we offer other freebies and good things to the website if you subscribe, and you can, easily adjust that.
I actually noticed
every month.
That was one of the first things I noticed on your site is that you have that subscriber option so that I just free ships. And I think that's the best way it's such a smart way to keep a customer. Because there's so many, we're getting advertising, we're getting information from so many different places. So once you get someone that they're actually interested in your product and they buy it, just auto ship. That's the best way. And it's easy. It's easy for a customer.
And it's a good deal for the customer too. Like our products retail at the farmer's market, we sell them for $25. On Amazon, we sell for $29. If you subscribe, you get free shipping and we deliver to you for $21. So it's a good deal.
Nice.
Yeah, it is a good deal.
So what did it look like when you went to your first restaurant to say, hey, I've got this thing. Would you like to buy it? What did that conversation look like?
I started in Dillon and I got shut down a lot because Dillon is a great town. Love it. And it's more of a like meat and shots of whiskey type of a town. They were not like, hey, we're into like super healthy stuff. So they're like, why would we ever buy that? That's not the vibe of our town. So it's a lot of just like sales though, that I was very used to. You get a lot of no's and it's just a numbers game. You just keep going. And then all of a sudden you meet a chef at Vail. And then you're like, oh, wait a second. Oh, Vail is this giant monster out here that owns all the high-end restaurants. And they're like, yeah, tried it here and tried it there. And you just keep going. And something that Teresa and I had been trained in, coached in, is when you take action, possibility shows up. So that's what happens for me. If I'm in like a way where I'm like stuck or I'm like, I don't know what to do, just get up and just take one action and something is going to show up, and just keep going. And that's the beauty of the farmers markets, is so much magic shows up. It's a huge effort to be at those markets, but so much magic shows up. So that's what I did. And they're like, wow, we are flying them in from California and they're like a quarter of the quality and twice the price. And it was just, very fortunate. And I was the first person to ever pitch them.
That's awesome. So are you still working with those restaurants that you started off?
Another farm has started up out there, and we have sold our There's like a whole procurement thing, but we sold that off to that grower. And now we grow just for our dried products. And we partner with other Colorado farms to supply us too.
Awesome. Living it local. I love that. Supporting it. And I mean, Colorado is a great place to be for anything that is nutritionally valuable, especially now. You're in Boulder now. So Boulder's a place. This
is the Mecca. People really care about it here. It was not this. These aren't conversations that I really had when I was in Illinois. It was not. That's more of like a beer and pizza and hot dogs, which I love. But this is much more of a how much concentrated nutrient dense food. People really want it.
Well, and I think though that's exactly who should be using microgreens though in their daily life is people who love beer and pizza and ice cream and junk food, because I mean, it's pretty hard to find an American or anybody for that matter who doesn't like something really sweet or something really salty or something that's really just not nutritionally valuable because it just tastes good. Yeah. But in that case, then when you're doing that, that's even more of a reason to have your microgreens, to have your little can and to add it into whatever you're eating.
And that's exactly me, is that because number one, I don't have time for that kind of stuff, or I don't make the time. So I'd much rather have just a supplement or just like an addition to, because I know I need it. But McDonald's is drive-through. It's really easy.
You're gonna sprinkling some broccoli greens.
McDonald's, yeah.
That would be an unbelievable partnership. Like get some broccoli in their buns or something like that. That would be.
Do you have the capacity to scale up? Like say Costco wanted 1 million of your things. Could you do that?
The nice thing about Costco, that is a dream partnership of mine. The nice thing about Costco is they will help finance you for that growth. I've seen a lot of my friends' companies really struggle when they get a large order, because now it's like, okay, say Costco wants to buy $1 million of product. Okay, well, what does that cost me to make? That's going to cost me, $500,000, $600,000 to make. Well, where do I get the money to then fulfill that order? And that really strains companies when they get big orders like that. So I'm not in a space for that. And I am in the process of fundraising. I'm doing my first seed round right now. So if you're out there and you're interested in being involved in something like this, please do reach out. We're raising our first seed round exactly for that, to expand our growing, to expand our freeze drying and different processes that we have. But we're looking to continually vertically integrate more of these processes. A lot of that is also looking at capturing more farm waste, imperfect produce, maybe like blemished or just not perfectly round apples type of a thing. We capture those, we process those. Those are called like seconds. We capture those and we put those into products as well.
Okay.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Like a smoothie powder.
Yeah. I heard it was
so we're in development there.
70% of all food produced is wasted, or I don't know.
It's about 30 to 40%. Yep.
Yeah, of everything.
It's enough to fill a Division I football stadium in the U.S. every single day.
It's insane.
It's crazy because, like we talked about in the first episode, is the food quality has gone down so much, and they're making so much, and they want it to be shelf stable, but then we're wasting so much food. I mean,
and there are people hungry and starving in the world.
All of these factors just they don't add up. What it adds up to is like the greed of corporate America, like whoever's making money from this, the greed, because it just is so illogical to me how we do things. So I think it's brilliant. And throughout your journey, Stephen, I want to help you get to Costco or wherever it is you want to get into.
Yeah, Costco would be a dream. That would be a real dream. I would love to supply Costco. I'm not really interested in retailers too much outside of that because the retailers, they take a huge percentage of the profit. Just to even sell to Whole Foods, for example, you have to go through a distributor. That distributor is taking 20%, and then you sell to Whole Foods, and Whole Foods is taking 35-45%. So that's a lot of margin. So I found I can get customers a much higher quality product at a lower cost if I just sell it direct. And so my business is really built to be direct to consumer. Through the post office, how do we provide the highest quality product at the lowest price? It's definitely buying it through us direct. Cut out all the middlemen, even Amazon, like that's great. We sell it on Amazon, but that's more of like just marketing. Buy it through the website. That supports us the most. And that helps to keep bringing you the highest quality product.
One quick question. This is something we talked about before on one of our earlier episodes, because this is exactly, we were talking about how people can make more money if they have like an Etsy shop or if they're actually selling something direct to the consumer. So you're using Amazon as a place for people to find you. And then do you have like a little flyer for a coupon to come direct to your website?
That's against Amazon's rules. You would get penalized if you did that. Amazon's customers, you buy it through Amazon, that's Amazon's customer. We don't know where you live. We don't know your name. We don't know your age. We don't know anything about you. We do get general stats monthly on who we think is who they're telling us is buying from us, but that's their customer. We have no way of communicating with them. So we do put it in there saying, if you have any questions, email us here. And we hope that brings them, but we can't say, hey, here's 15% off of our website. That would make Amazon very upset if they found us doing that.
Okay.
That's understandable, but that's a great thing to notice. I think as a consumer, if you're anyone who purchases from Amazon, which I think most of us do.
Oh,
then, yeah. When you get a product from somewhere, if they say, hey, sign up for our newsletter, or hey, ask if you have questions, it's probably worthwhile to go to that site directly and notice what's different from their Amazon options. All right. Well, we're going to take a really quick break. And so hold on for more plant and microgreens information.
This is a podcast for anyone looking to improve their personal, professional, or family life.
We craft these episodes so you can learn from or relate to our experiences and opinions.
And we'd love to hear more about you. So if you're interested in connecting with us further,
as well as other like-minded individuals,
we recommend checking out our creatively named Facebook group, Colorado Entrepreneurs.
You don't have to be from Colorado or be an entrepreneur to join, but it doesn't hurt.
Just go to facebook.com/groups/Colorado Biz, that's BIZ, and send us a join request.
Or check the link in the description and show notes below.
Thanks for listening, and now back to the show.
Well, welcome back, everyone. So wonderful stuff. Tell us what would you say is the number one, maybe at the time you saw it was the biggest mistake that you ever made, or something that just felt rough and you obviously came back from it, or maybe it changed the trajectory of what you were doing?
Yeah. Early on, I started this business with a lot of passion. That passion is still there, but that passion had me looking through rose-colored glasses to where I'm like, I am an optimist. And what I did early on is I didn't know anything about business. I just worked in the sales aspect of business for my whole life. So I didn't know about all these other aspects of business, and I didn't go out and find mentorship right away or guidance. What that offers when you get a mentor or guide is basically shortcuts and somebody to look from an educated perspective. And what my mentor, when I finally did get a mentor about a year in, he's like, it's like you ran 10 miles this past month, but you only made about 100 feet of gain because I was going in so many directions. I was putting 10% effort in 10 different directions and not really ever going anywhere. So I think it's getting really clear on what you're doing. You can really only scale one product to $1 million. So if your goal is to be $1 million company, it's what is your one product? What is your why? Why are you doing it? And get a lot of quantitative feedback from people. Do surveys. Now, as we're launching new products, we are doing extensive surveying. I'm it's not just me, this heart-led entrepreneur that is this is what I feel that I should be doing, and this is where the inspiration is. I think it's very important to follow that inspiration, that fuel, and also to get the numbers. What about this packaging and this pricing, and get it and make sure that there's sell it before you even make it. That was another thing that I did is here I go, here's all these products and everybody come buy it. It's the best thing ever. And nobody showed up. I was oh my gosh, what I do? I did it in reverse. So really find out what the people want, make it for them, and make whatever is the simplest decision is the best decision as well. I love getting fancy and complicated. And if there's all these moving parts, then it's better. It's like, nope, actually simple wins. And now my team holds me to that. Things get complicated fast. Things are ever changing, especially if you're a solopreneur, then it's 10 times more complicated. It's like, just make it simple for yourself. Simple, simple, simple. Nobody cares how fancy this is or that is. What is the simplest way? Do that.
That's awesome. I want to just reiterate 2 things you said there that I think are just amazing, because I see it so often. And I actually do this myself, is I'll start 20 different projects and I'm going all these different directions and I don't dial into one thing, and therefore none of them get enough energy. And so they're not as successful as they could be.
Yeah.
And what was the other one? Sell it before you make it.
Before you make it.
Because so many people, they spend so much time perfecting their course or their product or their project, and it's not what the customer actually wants, And so I think that's such a good piece of advice.
Well, and thinking about the things that when people are doing assertive, or they're like making us even like a sweatshirt, and there's some sort of something on the sweatshirt, you're like, I want one of those. Those are awesome. And they're like, yeah, they're not ready yet. You have the next 40 days to order one, and then there'll be a big batch order. And then the person knows, oh, people want this or not, or they don't want this. And I think, yeah, that's brilliant. But also the simplicity. I love doing all the complex things that I think are going to be amazing. And
Yeah.
simple is so much better. A confused mind says no. When it's simple and people understand it, they're like, I'm in. Sweet. Where can I sign up?
So something that you and I know are trained in, because we've done this training together, is create a plan and then work that plan. And that starts with the end in mind. So where do I want to be 1 year from now, 3 months from now? And then taking that end goal, like it's a real having in the world. Like I'm physically holding this new product or this whatever it is. And then I make quarterly goals around that. And then I build a team around that. But you got to start with the end in mind. I was also doing that at the beginning. I'm like, here I am now, and I'm just going to go forward, and wherever I go is where I go. It's like, nope, you're bouncing off the walls. And I was doing that, and I was working so hard, but not making any traction. And as soon as I started having clear goals in 1 year, this is what I'm going to have, then it's easy to make the yes and no decisions. Because when you're a founder at any level, there's 15 people trying to sell you something every single day. And if it makes it a lot easier to say yes and no to things, because you're like, well, does that help me get to my end goal here? And it's a lot easier to say no. Get good at saying no. Say no. Everybody wants to be your friend because everybody wants to sell you something. I was saying yes to everybody. So I'm like, oh, they all think I've got a good idea? No, because they all want to sell me something.
Totally. Well, and what would you say when you find yourself, you set that year, you work backwards, and say you don't hit your deadline? First quarter, you're like, dang, I'm behind. How do you deal with those?
Then you set a new goal. You're like, okay, you're going to re-promise, or you find a way to hit that goal. Like whatever it takes to hit that goal. I mean, you basically made a promise, and you can, renegotiate with yourself, with your vendors, your customers, your whoever. You can renegotiate, but you could also look and be like, is there anything that I can do to actually hit that goal? And that's a little bit of a anxious thing for me right now, because as I'm bringing investors in, it's like, oh, I've got to run this. I'm not just talking to myself now, and whatever I break a promise with myself, it's like, oh, there's people that are entrusting me with, good sums of money, and I've got to deliver on that. So that's the structures that I use, and learning how to restore integrity within that is because you probably will break some promises. Unintentionally things happen. Like, oh, I didn't make it because my car broke down. Like, okay, make a new promise. Just keep going.
I want to ask you too, Stephen, like, what's the best way if I want to tell my mom friends about microgreens, because I do think there is absolutely a market for moms who can't get enough vegetables in for their kids. And I also have plenty of people that I know who are all about nutrition and would love something like this in addition to what they're already doing for their health. So how can I best promote you out in the world? Like, what if I was going to give like
you on a podcast?
Well, yes, but I mean, like, if I could give someone a 30-second, like, hey, I use these microgreens. Like, what do you think is the most important thing I should say?
What's the pitch? Like, hey, I learned that we're not getting enough vegetables. Doesn't matter how many vegetables you're eating, basically. If you're buying it from the grocery store, you're not getting enough of the good things that you need. Here's a US grown product that is concentrated in that stuff that now has a 1.5 year shelf life. So you don't have to worry about cooking prep spoilage. And you just use this. It's easy. Sprinkle it on every meal.
Great. Because I wanted.
Once you go microgreens, you can't go back.
Yes. Because I mean, I really do. I want to support you. Like, I think it's so important, our nutrition and plants and learning about what they can do for us. There's such a need and a call for us to notice what we're putting in our bodies to be healthier overall for our body, but then our mental health, which is obviously part of our body. But like we mentioned in part 1, just briefly, there's a disconnect. There's a lot of things that the better we take care of our body and the more nutrition we can pack in, the better off we are as an overall rounded whole.
Yeah, I hear that. And what also is out there for me is for many people, they're in maybe a dark place in life where they go in and out of this dark way, and they look at the news and they're like, what's going on? And rising gas prices and inflation and all these things, like, this is like kind of dark and it weighs a little heavy. How do you fill your life with more light? Through the power and magic of photosynthesis, plants eat light. When you eat plants, you are filling yourself with that light. So eat more plants, fill yourself with light. There's many ways to fill yourself with light. Go outside and go be in the morning sun, go on a walk, go hug somebody you care about, tell someone you love them. There's lots of ways to share light, but plants, eat plants, fill yourself with light. And we are capturing these plants the same day that we harvest them. We're freeze drying them, and we're locking in as much of that as possible. So yeah, fill yourself with light. That's a big part of my interest of this.
Oh, I love that.
I love that. Yeah.
I love it. Well, our time is about up. And Stephen,
Teresa's fired up. Let's go, Teresa.
I am. I'm like, let's talk about plants. Let's eat some plants. I'm so excited. Let's be filled with some light. Absolutely. Well, Stephen, I just want to say thank you so much for being here. I know I have learned a lot. I am super excited to talk up your microgreens and direct people to your website so that they can get this jam-packed nutrition that's super easy to add into your diet. And I thought of you for an interview because you brought so much. I am inspired, and yeah, I'm lit up and like ready to go. So thank you so much for everything you brought today. And I appreciate your time so much.
Absolutely. Thanks for taking some time out with us and for the generous discount that you're giving to our listeners.
Oh, yes.
Go to your website.
BeyondMicrogreens.com. Use code IDKWTF for 15% off. And then we always have free shipping for orders $35 or more.
Wonderful.
Sounds great. Thank you so much, Stephen.
Thanks for being here. And thanks to all of our wonderful listeners for checking out another episode. And you guys are awesome.
We'll see you next time.
We'll see you again. Thanks.
Bye, guys.
Thank you for listening. This has been the conclusion of our 2-part series.
And hey, congrats for making it here.
If you didn't happen to catch part 1, just go back to the previous episode to get the full story.
It was a really good one.
If you enjoyed today's conversation, please consider liking, subscribing, and/or reviewing us on wherever you listen to your podcasts.
Also, if there's someone you know who clearly doesn't know what the fuck they're doing and would benefit from this topic, please hit that share button and send them this episode.
Let's normalize the feeling of uncertainty.
Asking for help and admitting that we don't know
what the fuck we're doing either.